got her back on the road with the spring replaced, and I think it's a wheel bearing because the vibration is still there. The spring needed to be replaced. It was broken, but that didn't have anything to do with the vibration. So going down the road, I'm pretty sure that it's probably a wheel bearing. I don't know if you can hear it, but here in the background you hear this like howling. And it kind of comes and goes a little bit, especially if I make a turn. Now, there's a couple curves coming up. I'm going to be quiet so maybe you can hear it. So I got quiet. Now it's back. When it does that, I'm pretty sure it's a wheel bearing. The left and the right one didn't have any play in it. I took the right one apart because I had to replace the spring anyways. And that wheel bearing was fine, and I replaced that a couple years ago. But it kind of feels like a tire's out of balance, but it makes this howling noise. And the howling noise, in this case, is diminished when I put G-forces on it going through a turn. Here's another one. It didn't do it at a right turn, but it does it on left turns. The noise goes away, and that's the only thing that's really affecting that would be the wheel bearing itself. So I think it's my left rear wheel bearing is out or going out. So right now it's just in the beginning process of making that some noise. So, but in the future, if I leave it like that, it'll get worse and worse. And eventually it'll get wobbly. So I can drive it here for a while, but I'll need to replace that wheel bearing. Anyways, next segment we'll have to replace the wheel bearing and see if that fixes it. So I got the old bearing out, and this one is a little notchy. Not terrible, but you can see that the speed sensor ring for the ABS is totally falling apart. This is actually stuck into the wheel bearing housing. It pulled apart when I pulled the bearing out. So that thing was making all kinds of racket. And so that's part of the problem. Now it's attached by 3 attaching bolts. You can see those here. 1, 2, 3. And when you put the new one in, make sure that the ABS cable is run off the top here so it can go to the attaching point. Other than that, we'll just bolt it back up and put the bolts back in and hook the brakes back up, and that's all there is to it. I'll kind of show you as we go through this, but there isn't much to it. I figured it's hard to get it apart because the bolts hadn't this thing's an old car, 280,000 miles. She didn't want to come apart very easy. But basically you have to take this big nut off, which is here, and then you do that initially when you have the wheel still on the ground so it doesn't turn. You use an impact wrench with it. And then these 3 bolts here, those were in there really hard, and the end of the bolts came out and protruded, and they were kind of corroded. So when so you can see here that's a little bit different color. So when I backed this bolt out, I loosened it. As soon as it hit all that corrosion, man, it was hard to turn. It's like, holy smokes, man. But it should go together a little easier than it came apart, I hope. We'll see. So work the bearing in and make sure that the splines line up, and make sure you have the ABS cable coming off the top, and then just bolt it in there. That's about it. And I can feel here on the shaft, it looks like it. I don't see any problems with that necessarily. It feels like it's pretty smooth. So that's a good deal. Anyways, I'll give you another shot here as we go along. So as you're tightening it down, you want to get all 3 of the bolts started at the same time. And probably this one up here you want to work initially first, because there's a bolt right here that's kind of on top of that. This bolt coming down, I had to take the nut off so that I can get at the bolt for the wheel bearing. So if you tighten this one down first, then it's not going to push the bolt head up against this other nut or bolt coming down. So I'm going to do that one first and kind of pull it in. This one's pretty easy to get to, and as is the bottom one's probably the easiest to get at with a socket. Anyways, yeah. And again, I got the wire coming off the top, so that can get attached over here. Not going to attach that up till I get all the bolts in there yet, though. But start them all together so you don't end up cross-threading anything. Don't tighten one down and go back. You want to get them all started loosely and then tighten them in order there as you can get to them. Do the hard ones first. Alright, so I got this in there right now. And I tightened up the main lug there with my impact driver. To the specified torque, of course. Well, close enough. And I'll torque it once I get the thing back on the ground. Put the tire in the ground with the hubcap off and still get at it. And then torque it up appropriately. I did learn something here with my emergency brake here, because last time on the other side I had a heck of a time getting this together, because as you can see there's not much room to get in there to do stuff. However, the pistons over here, if you load them at 90 degrees, put the caliper on there, and then rotate it back like that, it goes in place like magic. Ooh, daddy. Now I just got to figure out how to get this spring underneath it. Then that spring holds the thing in place. I'll have to manipulate that with a screwdriver. Yeah, so it's coming along. It's coming along. This is a weird emergency brake thingy though, for the drum brakes. Or I'm not sorry, the drum brake ones are a little bit more straightforward because it uses the same mechanism, not the hydraulics but the mechanical, on the same shoe. This one, being a disc brake, has its own shoe that works inside of the shoe. Now here, this is where the normal brakes work. And on your disc here, you got like a little drum inside there. So you got a drum for the emergency brake and a disc for the regular brakes. So that's how that works. And this thing here is your drum brakes for the emergency brake. If that's not confusing, well, I'll keep working on it. Also, I don't want to forget my nut over here. I'm going to leave it in here so I don't forget it. But I got to tighten that up. And that goes, remember I said you got to take that nut off for the upper control arm there. I would suppose that'd be exciting ride if that thing came zinging off going down the road. Pew! Yeah, not good. So yeah, make sure you capture all your nuts and bolts in one container there, so when you put it back together, you can say, well, I got rid of all my nuts and bolts, so it must be on there the right way. Just make sure everything's tightened up, proper specs and all that. So, keep working on it, keep working. So, as you can see, I got the Discola back on there. There's a little screw down here, a little torque screw. You don't want to tighten that down very tight, just snug it up a little bit. When you get the tire wheel on there, that'll hold the disc on there. I also hooked up the ABS, and since I put the ABS speed sensor on the top, the cord actually reaches there, and it's set upon its little perch. That's very nice. You notice I had the disc, or the caliper, hanging with this wire here. Guess I don't need that anymore, because now the caliper is down over here. And I have 2 bolts that's attaching it. Again, I just attached the top one loose, and of course the bottom one's down there, one kind of just like the top one. And just loosen them up a little bit, and then you want to torque them to the right spec. Also, before I pulled this thing apart, I put my pry bar in here and just gave it a little right there. Pried it a little bit. And what that did was it spread them apart, so putting it back together was a little bit easy because there's plenty of room. Now when I get in the car, I'll pump the brakes a couple times and everything will tighten right back up like it should be. If you do have any grease or grime on the disc, you want to make sure you clean it off with brake cleaner. Mine's pretty clean. I didn't get all goobered up too bad. But anytime you're working with brakes, like if you got a caliper that breaks a seal or something and starts goozing all over everything, you might want to just replace the pads and maybe even the disc. But clean it up anyways first. Mine's already pretty clean. Old as it is, it still works okay. Anyways, that's about it for now. Alright, going on a test flight. The maiden voyage. We're going to look for, this is making racket around 40 miles an hour. So we'll take her up to speed and see how she does. Here we go. So far quiet. Yeah. Oh, this one's so quiet it'll put you to sleep. That's not good. I don't want to fall asleep while I'm driving. Oh. So far so good. There's 40. Listen to that. Quiet. Oh, smooth. I'm very happy. Oh, I'm very happy. Let's take it up to 50. That rumbling's gone. Still got a little vibration though. That might be the drive shaft. Put a hanger bearing in that one. But definitely, that wheel bearing noise is gone. So that is a big success. Yay! Trying the corners here. Yeah, got nothing. Got no noise. No noise is good noise, I always say. Yeah. Alright, so that was a wheel bearing. So we had multiple things. A broken spring. We put a transmission in it this summer, and I put a hanger bearing in the drive shaft. I still feel a little bit of vibration. I don't think that's a wheel bearing though. That might be the drive shaft. It's a heck of a lot better than it was. We'll keep working. Keep nursing this baby along. Alright, we'll talk to you later. Hope this helps. Bye-bye.